Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namaskaram. Welcome to the 17th episode of Śiva-Bodha-Mālikā. Today, we shall be looking at the form of Shiva as Ardhanārīśvara, a very, very popular form that many of us would have seen in various temples as well as various images. Now, what is the Puranic story behind the form of Ardhanārīśvara? Ardhanārīśvara is the form of Shiva along with his consort, along with Shakti. That is, the body is half Shiva and half Shakti, half male and half female. That is Ardhanārīśvara. Ishvara who has half of his body given to Shakti. Now, in the Puranas, there are various stories related to the emergence or origin of the Ardhanārīśvara form. In many cases, it is Shakti who prays to Shiva to be part of him, and he gives half of his body to Shakti. In many cases, due to the attack of Rakshasas or Asuras, Shiva absorbs Shakti into himself and enhances the power with which the Asura is killed. In many Puranas, Brahma is unable to increase the pace of creation or is unable to do the Srishti Karya, which is when Rudra manifests himself as Ardhanārīśvara, as half male and half female, and this form of Shiva then inspires or encourages for creation to happen. The another story that we find in the Puranas is that of the sage Bhringi. Bhringi was supposed to be a very ardent devotee of Shiva, to the extent that he would not worship anybody other than Shiva. So once, when Brahma, Bhringi, Indra, and all of them go to Kailasa, all of them worship Uma, Parvati, and then go to worship Shiva. But Bhringi directly goes to worship Shiva without even paying attention to Uma or Shakti. So it is said that this angered the goddess, and she pulls off the entire Shakti or energy out of Bhringi so that he is even unable to walk. But knowing the devotion of Bhringi, Parameshwara gives him an extra limb with which he can walk and still perform worship to Shiva. He can still perform Shiva-Aradhana. Seeing that act of Parameshwara, Shakti repents and asks for pardon. Another version of the story goes that despite removing the energy, Bhringi continues to worship only Shiva. So then Shakti asks Shiva to be part of him, so that in that case, Bhringi will have to worship Shakti along with Shiva. So if Shiva comes in the Ardhanārīśvara form, there is no way for Bhringi to just worship Shiva. It has to be worshipped along with Shakti. So Shakti asks for that boon from Parameshwara, and they become one, and they stand there as Ardhanārīśvara. Then also, sage Bhringi, what he does, he takes the form of a bee, the Bhringa. That is why he's called as Bhringi. He takes the form of a bee and he circumambulates. He does pradakshina, only half, ardha pradakshina. And then he bores a hole through the forehead of Parameshwara and comes back. He bores a hole through the forehead of Parameshwara, comes back and does only circumambulation there. Shakti is surprised at this intense devotion, this Ekasanda Bhakti, right? of Bhringi Munivar towards Parameshwara, and she finally asks for pardon towards Shiva and gives back the energy to Bhringi, to sage Bhringi. So these are all the various stories related to the origin of Ardhanārīśvara that we find in the Puranas. But what is the symbolism behind Ardhanārīśvara? The primary symbolism behind Ardhanārīśvara is that of the union of Shiva and Shakti, that one is incomplete without the other. Shiva is incomplete without Shakti, and Shakti is incomplete without Shiva. And the union of Shiva Shakti is essential for any creative activity, for any creation to happen. Purusha and Prakriti. In the Sankhya philosophy, it is mentioned as Purusha and Prakriti. When Purusha and Prakriti, Purusha Prakriti Samyoga, when the union of Purusha Prakriti happens, is when creation begins, is how the Sankhya philosophy states it. So this is like a nidarshana, an example, a very testimony of that very fact being picturized in the form of a devata, a deity of Ardhanārīśvara, to say that Purusha and Prakriti coming together, they become the source of creation. And that is what the Puranic stories also allude towards. So Shiva being incomplete without Shakti, and Shakti being incomplete without Shiva. Shakti as Prakriti, as everything that you can see as the material universe, and Shiva as the consciousness, as the Atman, as the self. So it is only when the self and the entire Prakriti, they come together, is when the entire creation comes into place. The entire creation takes place only when these two come together. Because if it was only Shiva, it would be the state of Atmajnana, it would be the state of Brahmajnana. You would remain as just a witness, as just a Sakshi, and there would be no karma, there would be no activity that would be happening. So, for activity to happen, this samyoga has to happen between Purusha and Prakriti, between Shiva and Shakti. That is why in Tamil, there is a very popular phrase, Shivanena iru. Shivanena iru means just keep quiet, just keep still, don't act. So Shivanena iru, if you just remain as Shiva, that means you're just, it is not inert, it is just remaining inactive, just not doing other activities, just stopping, remaining still. That is the meaning of Shivanena iru, Shumma iru, Shivanena iru. All these are synonyms. So this represents the highest state of Brahmajnana, but for creation, that doesn't work. So Shivanena, the term Shiva itself is synonymous with remaining still, whereas Shakti is that of activity. That is why in the very first verse of Saundarya Lahari, Acharya Adishankara Bhagavatpada says, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shaktaha Prabhavitum Nachedevam Devo Nakhalu Kushalas Panditumapi. Shiva Shaktya Yuktaha. Only when Shiva combines with Shakti, this entire creation and activity, he is even capable of even moving an iota, an inch. Is only possible when Shiva combines with Shakti. Without the combination of Shakti, no activity is possible. So this is the tattva of Ardhanārīśvara, the Shiva Shakti tattva, the Ardhanārīśvara tattva, Purusha Prakriti tattva that we find in this form of Ardhanārīśvara. Now we find various sculptures and images that depict Ardhanārīśvara. As you can see on the images, you have various vigrahas from various parts of the country Bharatavarsha that depict the form of Ardhanārīśvara, half Shiva, half Shakti. Various bronze sculptures you find, especially from the Chola period, that depict a very different form of Shiva Shakti, and also the panels that you have seen in Elephantia caves and various other places also. So it's a very age-old depiction of Parameshwara as Ardhanārīśvara, of depicting the Shiva Shakti Tattva. Now coming to the temples that speak about or that depict this form of Shiva as Ardhanārīśvara, you have the famous temple at Tiruchengodu, which depicts Parameshwara, Shiva as Ardhanārīśvara, and the Shakti here is Ardhanārīśvari. And the main form of Parameshwara itself is that of half Shakti and half Shiva. So this is what you see in the images. This is the form of Shiva, the posture of the Moolavar that you see there, who holds an ayudha on one hand. So there is Shiva on one side and there is Shakti on the other side. And you can even see the Utsava-Murti, the way the Utsava-Murti is decorated as half Shiva and half Shakti. Now, on this temple at Tiruchengodu, Tirujnana Sambandar has sung one padikam. He says, வெந்த வெந்நீர் அணிந்த விரிநூல் திகழ் மார்பில் நல்ல பந்தனவும் இரளால் ஒரு பாகம் அமர்ந்தருளி. வெந்த வெந்நீர் அணிந்து விரிநூல் திகழ் மார்பில். Virinul tigal marble. That is, on the chest is the sacred Yajnopavitam, Virinul, the Poonal or the Yajnopavitam, which depicts the Shiva aspect of it. Marble. Nalla Pandanavum Viralal Urubagam Amarand Aruli. There is the one with the beautiful fingers holding the ball, Shakti, who is Urubagam. On one side, she is sitting in that very form, holding the ball or the pandu in her beautiful fingers, and they are both grazing together. That is what Tirujnana Sambandar says. So this is a very popular shrine, and especially the shrine is also famous for the Subramanya Swami in this temple, in the same hill. It is also known as Sarpagiri. Tiruchengodu, he is known as Sengottu Velavan. Sengottu Velavan is the name of Subramanya or Muruga in this temple, and in the Tirupugal, Arunagirinathar has sung elaborately on the Lord here. Muthuswami Dikshitar has composed a kriti, Ardhanārīśvaram, in the raga Kumudakriya on the Lord in this very temple at Tiruchengodu. So we shall now listen to that kriti rendered by Vidushi Sidhi Krishnamoorthy.
Ardhanārīśvaram ārādhayāmi satatam Ardhanārīśvaram ārādhayāmi satatam Ardhanārīśvaram Ardhanārīśvaram satatam Ardhanārīśvaram ārādhayāmi satatam Tribhriguvasishtādi Muni Brindavanditam Shri Ardhanārīśvaram ārādhayāmi satatam Tribhriguvasishtādi Muni Brindavanditam Shri Ardhanārīśvaram Ardhayāma Vishesha Prabhavam Ardhayāma Alankara Vishesha Prabhavam विशेष प्रभावम् आधयाम अलङ्कार विशेष प्रभावम् अर्धनारीश्वरी प्रियकरम् अभयकरं शिवम् अर्धनारीश्वरी प्रियकरम् अभयकरं शिवम् अर्धनारीश्वरम् आराधयामि सततं त्रिभृगुवसिष्ठादि मुनिवृन्दवन्दितं श्री अर्धनारीश्वरम् नागेन्द्र मणिभूषितम् नागेन्द्र मणिभूषितं नन्दितुरग आरोहितं नागेन्द्र मणिभूषितं नन्दितुरग आरोहितं नागेन्द्र मणिभूषितं नन्दितुरग आरोहितं श्रीगुरुगुह पूजितं कुमुदक्रियारागनुतं श्रीगुरुगुह पूजितं कुमुदक्रियारागनुतम् आगमादिसन्नुतम् आगमादिसन्नुतम् अनन्तवेदघोषितम् आगमादिसन्नुतम् अनन्तवेदघोषितम् अमरेशादिसेवितम् आरक्तवर्णशोभितम् आगमादिसन्नुतम् अनन्तवेदघोषितम् अमरेशादिसेवितम् आरक्तवर्णशोभितम् अर्धनारीश्वरम् आराधयामि सततं त्रिभृगुवसिष्ठादि मुनिवृन्दवन्दितं श्री अर्धनारीश्वरम्
I hope all of you enjoyed this session. Do keep watching the sessions on Subhu's Corner. Do share and subscribe to the videos until we meet for our next session. Namaskar.